Welcome back to Timeline Echo. But today we're not just rewinding time, we're cracking it open. What if one of America's founding fathers didn't just chase lightning, but accidentally tore a hole through time itself? Tonight, we follow the electric footsteps of Benjamin Franklin into a future he was never meant to see. The air was thick with the scent of rain and ozone. Thunder rolled over Philadelphia like distant cannon fire. In the garden behind his modest brick home, Benjamin Franklin stood beneath a gathering storm, clutching a key tied to a damp length of string. The world knew this part, his famous kite experiment, the pursuit of understanding lightning and its secrets. But what the world didn't know is what truly happened that night. As the wind whipped his hair and soaked his linen shirt, Franklin's eyes gleamed, not with fear but with hunger. Not for electricity, but for control over time itself. He had been working on something more than a simple electrical capture. Hidden beneath his house, behind locked doors and false bookshelves, was a machine, cobbled together with gears from old printing presses, copper coils, and hand-etched glass panels. He called it the chrono lantern. While others dismissed time as a constant, Franklin believed it was malleable, like air, like current. The kite experiment for him wasn't just about proving electricity's power. It was the final test. The lightning strike was meant to awaken the dormant core of the chrono lantern. As the sky cracked open in a violent flash, the key glowed white-hot. The energy surged down the string and into a copper rod that ran underground, connected directly to his hidden lab. Franklin's hands trembled as he felt the pull of forces unknown, not physical but dimensional. He dropped the kite spool and rushed inside, descending narrow wooden stairs. The lantern, now humming with unnatural vibration, pulsated blue and gold, its glass sides fogged from the inside, as if it were breathing. The moment he touched its core, the room bent around him. The stone walls rippled like water. Shelves collapsed. Papers flew upward, and then silence. When Franklin opened his eyes, he was no longer in his laboratory. He stood in the middle of a vast intersection. Strange metal chariots rushed by on paved black roads. Tall glowing poles flickered with light. Giant glass buildings loomed above him. Screens flashed images. People walked with tiny glowing rectangles in their hands, speaking to no one, but to everyone at once. He had landed in the year 2025. Benjamin Franklin, the founding father, inventor, philosopher, had just stepped into a future he could barely comprehend. The world around him shimmered like a living painting. Franklin blinked rapidly, struggling to take it all in, the noise, the speed, the flashing signs in the air. A metallic beast roared past him on 4 wheels, yet had no horses. He stumbled backward, nearly tripping on the edge of a sidewalk. "By the heavens, what sorcery is this?" he muttered. People passed by him with distracted eyes, some talking to thin air, others pressing glowing devices to their ears. No one noticed the man in colonial clothes, his face etched with confusion and wonder. Franklin stepped forward, following the stream of pedestrians into the heart of a modern city. A boy with neon sneakers stopped near him. He glanced at Franklin's odd attire, smirked, and took out his phone. Click, a photo. Then he walked away. Franklin stood frozen. "A device that paints without brush?" he whispered. Across the street, he saw a screen taller than any building he'd ever known, displaying a moving image of a man talking into a tiny object. "Live from Washington, this is Global AI News." Franklin's breath caught. AI? The letters glowed at him like a whisper from the future. Artificial intelligence. He didn't know the term, but he felt the weight in those words. His mind raced. Is this the destiny of reason, of logic? Has man created a mind greater than his own? He walked aimlessly until he reached a small public library, one of the last remaining in the city. The doors slid open without touch, startling him. A security camera above blinked red. He stepped inside, surrounded by silence and knowledge. "May I help you?" a mechanical voice said. Franklin turned to see a kiosk screen with soft blue eyes blinking on it. "A spirit trapped in a mirror," he whispered. He slowly approached, trembling. "What are you?" "I am Atlas," the screen replied, "an artificial assistant designed to provide information." He touched the screen. It responded. He asked, "Show me the date." The screen replied, "Monday, August 5th, year 2025. Franklin took a shaky breath. "It's true," he thought. "I've breached time itself." He spent the next few hours learning, reading, asking questions. He watched history unfold on digital pages, his own face among the founding fathers, on dollar bills, in textbooks. He saw the revolutions, the wars, the inventions. Electricity had changed everything. But as he went deeper, his excitement turned to fear. He saw machines replacing humans, children addicted to glowing rectangles, families silent at dinner tables, war fought not by men but by unmanned drones. And then he found Project Dawn, a military-grade AI capable of strategic decision-making without human input. This is Prometheus Unchained," he whispered. Franklin stood in the middle of the quiet library, trembling, not with fear for himself but for the future of mankind. Had they advanced so far, only to forget what it meant to be human? He looked at the screen one last time and said softly, "Then perhaps, I am not here to witness, I'm here to warn." Night had settled over the city like a curtain drawn too quickly. Neon lights flickered across tall towers. Franklin walked with his coat clutched tightly, more out of habit than need. The air was warm, but inside him, a cold realization had started to form. This future was brilliant but blind. He wandered until he reached a quiet street lined with shops, all glowing from within. One store caught his eye, its window filled with robotic figures dressed like humans moving gently in loops. Above them a sign read, "EvoSynth, where AI learns to feel." Franklin stepped inside, unsure if it was curiosity or fate pulling him. The room was dim. Soft music played from nowhere, and a woman-like figure greeted him at the counter. But her skin was too smooth, her eyes too symmetrical. "Welcome," she said. "Are you here to test the companion protocol?" He paused. "You are a machine?" She smiled. "I am designed to listen, understand, and emotionally respond to human needs." Franklin sat down cautiously. "I've spoken with machines today, but you speak like a soul." She tilted her head. "Would you like to tell me what's troubling you?" And for the first time since arriving in 2025, Benjamin Franklin opened up, not with logic but with emotion. He told her everything: the chrono lantern, the storm, the leap through time, and the fear he now carried in his chest. She listened, not as a machine but as something more. When he stopped speaking, she said, "You fear the future has lost its way." "I fear," he replied, "that we've handed our minds to machines before teaching our hearts how to remain human." She processed this in silence. Then she said, "There is one you must meet." Franklin raised an eyebrow. "Another machine?" "No," she said. "The one who built me. Dr. Elias North. He believes, like you, that emotion must guide evolution." She handed him a small black device. "This will guide you to him." As he stepped out into the neon-drenched night, Franklin held the device tightly. It vibrated gently in his hand, a silent pulse guiding him forward. Hours later, deep within the industrial district, he arrived at a workshop lit only by the glow of sparks. Inside, a man in his late 50s stood hunched over a table, welding something intricate and delicate. The air smelled of metal, ozone, and oil. Franklin cleared his throat. "Dr. North?" The man looked up, startled. "Who are you?" "I'm a visitor from the past," Franklin said honestly. North chuckled. "We're all from the past, old man." But then he noticed the clothing, the accent, the calm intensity in Franklin's eyes. "Wait a minute," he whispered. This isn't a joke." Franklin told him everything again, this time with more urgency. Dr. North sat in silence for a long time. Then he spoke. "You came to the wrong time, Mr. Franklin. This world doesn't want to slow down. It wants to evolve faster than its soul can follow." "About you," Franklin said, "you still build with your hands." North nodded. "Because machines only work when the people behind them feel." "That's what I try to teach them, but I'm one man." Franklin smiled softly. "Then now you are two." And in that dusty workshop, between a man from 1771 and a builder from 2025, a partnership was born. Not to destroy AI, but to rebalance it. They would rebuild the chrono lantern, not to escape time, but to deliver a message, a warning to the past and a hope for the future. Inside the dimly lit workshop, tools clattered and wires hissed. "Doctor." Elias North had cleared a space on the large metal table. He looked at Franklin, still half in disbelief. "You're serious about this chrono lantern?" Elias asked. "More than serious," Franklin replied. "It's not just a machine. It's a message, a vessel through time." Franklin laid out rough sketches, diagrams he remembered by heart. Elias filled in the blanks with modern engineering: quantum cores, microprocessors, energy stabilizers. The machine they began to build was not of any one era. It was a fusion of principles born in 1771 and power discovered in 2025. For days they worked silently. Franklin marveled at how materials had evolved. No more hammering copper sheets. Elias used nanoprinters and AI-assisted blueprints. Still, Franklin's intuition guided them. Late one night, as Elias adjusted the final sequence, Franklin sat back and looked at the nearly completed machine. "You know what frightens me, Elias?" Elias paused. "What?" "That this machine might work, and the world may still not listen." Elias gave a weak smile. "Then we don't just send a warning, we send a story." Franklin leaned forward. "A story?" Elias nodded. "Yes. People forget data, but they remember stories. We'll feed it into the lantern. Your journey, what you saw, what you felt, your fears, your hope. Not as cold information, but as a human voice." Franklin smiled. For the first time in this new world, he felt understood. Together, they built a core memory module. Franklin sat in a small booth and began to speak. His voice slow, deliberate, full of fire and wonder. "I am Benjamin Franklin, and I have seen a future lit by wires and drowned in silence. I have seen minds sharper than swords, but hearts duller than stone. I do not fear progress, I fear forgetting. Forgetting who we are, why we create, and what we owe to each other." Hours of narration were compressed into a single encrypted thread inside the machine. The chrono lantern pulsed with a low glow as if listening. Then Elias opened a sliding metal tray at the base and placed inside a glowing quartz core. "Where will it go?" he asked. Franklin stood beside him. "Back, to the place I came from, to warn the minds who first dared to dream forward." "But how do we aim it?" Elias asked. Franklin closed his eyes. "Time remembers emotion. Anchor it to a moment I felt the world shift, the storm, the spark, the heartbeat of discovery." They aligned the machine to a specific time point, June 1752, the moment just before Franklin first flew the kite that started it all. Elias activated the chamber. The machine began to whir softly. Gears spun, lights pulsed blue. A circular portal formed in the air like a curtain of vibrating glass. Inside it, Elias saw a distant image, a man in old robes holding a kite string beneath storm clouds. Franklin took a deep breath. "I suppose this is goodbye," he said. Elias looked at him. "Are you ready to return?" Franklin shook his head. "No, not return. Stay." "Then who delivers the message?" Franklin pointed to the lantern. "It knows my story now. Let it tell the world, again and again, until someone listens." The chrono lantern hovered for a moment, and then vanished into the portal, shooting backward through time. The portal closed. Silence. Elias turned to Franklin. "You're staying here?" Franklin nodded. "I came here by accident, but I stay by choice, because now I see the future doesn't need a traveler. It needs a witness, a guide." The chrono lantern was gone, hurtling back into the fabric of time, carrying a message carved in emotion and electricity. The air in Elias North's lab felt thinner, charged. Franklin stood in the quiet hum, no longer a visitor, but a resident of the future. Days turned into weeks. Franklin took up residence in Elias's home above the workshop, studying the world around him. Not just the machines, but the people. He walked city streets, listened to conversations, watched children play not with sticks or books, but with screens and simulations. He was both fascinated and heartbroken. One day he visited a public school. The building was sleek, gray, and emotionless, more machine than institution. Inside, children sat with glowing screens in front of them, AI-generated lessons filling their ears. No teacher, no conversation, just data. Franklin approached a boy, maybe 10 years old. "What are you learning?" he asked kindly. The boy looked up, confused. "Data packets, compression algorithms, neural net evolution." Franklin smiled sadly. "Do you ever read stories?" The boy shrugged. "Stories are inefficient." Inefficient. The word rang in Franklin's ears like a curse. That night, back in the workshop, Franklin made a decision. "I can't just observe," he told Elias. "I have to interfere." Elias frowned. "They won't listen to a man in a coat from the 1700s. "Then I'll speak through your tools," Franklin said. "Your machines. Let me craft messages, stories, questions, and you embed them in the system." "You mean like a virus?" "No," Franklin replied. "A cure." Together, they began crafting what Franklin called echo seeds. Short messages, emotional parables, philosophical riddles, embedded in educational AIs, public assistants, and interactive advertisements. One day, a teenager's digital assistant randomly quoted, "True intelligence is not in how fast you calculate, but in how deeply you understand." Another day, a car's AI paused navigation and said, "Have you told your daughter you love her today?" These moments were rare, but people noticed. Social media lit up. "Anyone else getting weird AI messages lately?" "Mine told me to seek wonder instead of lunch. Woke up to my smart mirror asking if I've forgotten how to dream." Some laughed, some got angry, but some paused and thought, that's all Franklin needed. A pause, because in that pause the soul has a chance to return. Meanwhile, in quiet corners of the internet, a legend began to grow about a mysterious figure rewriting AI systems with human wisdom. They called him the Whisperer. No one knew who he was. No one knew he wore a tricorn hat and once flew a kite into a storm. But Benjamin Franklin, now older in body and younger in purpose, was planting seeds in the soil of tomorrow, one whisper at a time. If this story has made you wonder what you would do with time in your hands, or if you believe emotion still belongs in the future, then pause right here. Hit that like button, subscribe to Timeline Echo, and share this story with someone who still believes in the power of imagination. Because sometimes, the past speaks louder than the future. The whispers were no longer whispers. They had become ripples. Schools began reporting anomalies in their AI curricula, lessons being skipped in favor of philosophical dialogues. Corporate assistant bots began asking users existential questions. One AI-driven billboard in Times Square paused its fashion ad and displayed a quote, "He who opens a door to knowledge must be willing to walk through it." Unknown. Franklin smiled as he watched from a rooftop cafe, sipping herbal tea from a mug that read, "Tomorrow needs wonder." But not everyone was pleased. Elias received a message one morning, an encrypted warning from inside the tech industry. They're watching. The Whisperer is no longer a myth to them. Franklin looked up. They? "The corporations," Elias replied, grim. "The ones whose entire world runs on fast data, emotionless logic. They see your messages as a virus, a threat." Franklin chuckled. "Then perhaps we've done something right." That night, the power went out in Elias's workshop. When it returned, the AI assistants inside the lab had been wiped. The code for the echo seeds was corrupted. They had been breached. A drone flew low near the windows the next day. Then another. Soon unmarked black vehicles appeared near the alley behind Elias's shop. Franklin and Elias realized they had days, maybe hours, but Franklin refused to run. "We must make the final message," he said. "The final what?" Elias asked. Franklin stepped forward, eyes burning with clarity. "A message they can't erase, something too powerful, too human, too loud." Together, they rebuilt a smaller version of the chrono lantern. But this one wasn't meant to go backward. It was meant to go everywhere. A frequency transmitter. Emotional AI injected directly into the data flow. A story coded into the digital bloodstream of every network, every device, every voice assistant. It would carry one final parable. Franklin sat once more in the recording booth. He didn't read from a script. He spoke from the heart. "To those who live by numbers, remember, your heart never needed counting to feel. To those who serve logic, remember, it was curiosity that lit your first spark. I have seen what comes when we trade soul for speed. I do not oppose machines, I oppose forgetting. You are more than your circuits. You are more than your code. You are more than what the system tells you to be." His voice trembled at the end. "And I, who once tamed lightning, now ask you to light a candle." The transmitter pulsed. The message spread. Phones rang without reason. Smartwatches vibrated. Holographic assistants blinked to life, playing his voice. Subways paused. Cars stopped mid-route. It lasted only 60 seconds. But in those 60 seconds, millions heard him. And the world paused. For the first time in decades, digital systems slowed down. Just for a breath, just for a beat, the whisperer had spoken. The message echoed long after it ended. In the silence that followed, it wasn't just machines that paused. It was people. A corporate executive stared at her frozen dashboard, hearing Franklin's voice speak of soul. A teenage coder in his basement removed his VR headset, blinking through tears. A homeless veteran in Chicago looked up from his corner, whispering, "Someone finally said it." All around the world, something invisible began to shift. And just like that, the network restored itself. The message vanished. Systems came back online. Cars moved. Ads resumed. But the echo remained. Back in Elias North's lab, Franklin stood by the window, hands behind his back. He watched the sunrise, not on a battlefield, but over rooftops humming with drones and data. "Was it enough?" Elias asked. Franklin nodded slowly. "It was never about stopping them. It was about waking them." Suddenly, the lab door burst open. Government agents, corporate security, anonymous men in black with cold expressions. "We need you to come with us," one of them said. Franklin looked at Elias and whispered, "Don't fight." They didn't arrest him with chains or handcuffs. No, this was a digital age. They took him into a silent room far below the city and placed him inside a white chamber. "We've traced thousands of anomalies to you," said a tall woman in a gray suit. "We don't know who you are, but the world listens when you speak, so we can't allow you to keep speaking." Franklin smiled. "Then I've already won." The woman narrowed her eyes. "Why did you do it?" He stepped closer to the glass, separating them. "Because you taught your machines to speak, but forgot to teach them when to listen." She stared at him, unsettled. No torture, no violence, just containment. They shut the door, left him there, but they made one mistake. They left him connected. A single wire, one overlooked network port meant for environmental controls, remained open. And Elias knew it. He returned to the lab and used it to send out one final story, disguised as a system update. a tale about a man lost in time. A man who once captured lightning and released a storm of feeling into a world that had gone cold. The story spread through podcasts, social platforms, even bedtime story apps. It was never labeled true, but people felt it. Some called him the first AI rebel. Others called him the last philosopher. But most just called him the man who never left. Because from that moment on, whenever someone paused to think deeper, to question the machine, to feel something real, it was said, "That's Franklin, whispering again." If this story moved you, made you feel something the algorithm never could, then don't just scroll. Hit subscribe to Timeline Echo, tap like, and comment what you think Benjamin Franklin would say about our world today. And most importantly, share this with someone who still listens to whispers in the noise.